she hidden?
Gotcha.
Are you excited for today?
Absolutely. Baby girl, yes. Absolutely. I know she's beautiful either way.
There's a gap kick that
I
way. Okay.
Right here.
Turn around.
Hi.
got you.
We're good.
So happy for you. You okay?
Yeah, I'm just happy to
You're beautiful.
I think it just set in that I'm getting married.
It's okay. It's alright. It's a good day, not a bad day.
Yeah. This was weird.
Why is it weird?
It makes me feel like I'm an adult now. I don't want to be an adult.
You've been an adult for a while.
Yeah, I know.
It's okay, don't cry.
Yeah. I'm excited. I'm very excited.
But Brookie was completely different to me. Brookie was my little fragile cookie. She was. We were looking at pictures just the other night, how thin and petite and fragile she was. It was kind of a family joke that she was our see-through baby for a while, because she was just so precious. And you're almost afraid to hold on to her because you're afraid you might hurt her, you might break her. And she wore her emotions on her sleeve. I mean, you didn't even have to jump on her or yell at her. You just look at her and she'd cry. And she was loving and trusting and kind almost to a fault, almost to the point of being naive and vulnerable to me. And it always worried me that people were going to take advantage of you. And I used to have this conversation with these guys here. I'd say, y'all got to help me take care of this child because she's not going to do it herself. She's not built like us. She's just not that tough. And I said something to that effect one time, Brookie, and Rachel looked at me and said, Dad, you do know that she's not like that all the time, right? And I said, what do you mean, Rachel? And she said, well, when you're not around, she kind of flips out sometimes. She said, Brooke is a little crazy. I said, all right, well, I haven't seen that side of her yet, so just help me out. Well, sure enough, I'm home one day and I'm inside, the kids are out playing, and I walk outside, you know what's coming. I walk outside and I look up, and Brooke's got one of these dang 40-pound metal scooters, one of those Razor scooters, up over her head doing laps with. And after about 5 good swings, she just knocks the piss out of Clayton with it. And I just whack, and it sounded like she hit a tree, and he dropped like a rock. And my first thought was, honest to God, she may have just killed my son right there. And that's one of only 2 times I ever spanked you, Brooke. You remember the other one? You locked Clayton in a locker at school one day, and it took about 3 hours and a keysmith to get him out. So, so you see a common theme here in Brooke's story, it's Clayton. But
I can't with my arm. I can't with my arm.
You almost broke her wrist.
My wife's so stiff.
the dad inside of me that day was like, yes, like I finally saw you snap and take care of yourself. And I finally realized that not only you could, but you would if you had to. And I started to quit worrying about you. Over time, I actually realized that Brooke might be the toughest kid I've got. It's just that she's way smarter and way sneakier about it than the other guys are. So, but Brookie, I finally quit worrying about you because I realized that you got it, okay? So then the dad's got to worry about something else. Then I start worrying about, is she ever going to be productive? Is she ever going to be successful doing anything? Because to that point, I hadn't seen much out of the child. Rachel's touring the world, doing beautiful photography and being published in Vogue, and Clayton's playing big boy football finally where he belongs, and they're all going to be fine, but Brooke's just kind of sitting around doing this all the time. I mean, she would literally be eating dinner with one hand and videoing with the other. And you guys that watch her vlog realize that I'm probably in less of them than anybody, and there's a reason for that, right? Because I'm the one going, Brooke, put the freaking phone down. Just quit. Stop. But then her and her sister, they signed me up not too long ago for this new social media thing, Facebook, and I couldn't have cared less about it at the time. Could not have cared less. But I quickly started liking the fact that I could see my old buddies and my old teammates and watch their kids growing up. And I start watching some YouTubes and Instagram, and I get to watch some of these little videos that Brooke's making. And I'm sitting there watching these videos one day, and I'm like, you know what? I don't really get this. I was like, I don't understand why it's so funny. Kids spitting water on one another and slapping each other with cheese and tortillas. I just don't get it. But then they explained to me the whole influencer thing and how that worked. And the more views and likes and shares she got, the better she could do. And I start realizing that she's got a little career going. So I'm like, okay. Well, over time, I start watching more and more of these little videos, and I'm sitting there watching one day, and I'm like, you mean to tell me there's 750 kids watched that video? I was impressed. And I looked a little closer, and I was like, wait a minute, that's a K beside that. That's 750,000 kids watching that. And the more I watched, the more I realized there's 1 million kids watching everything this child's doing. That's a big deal. But I didn't realize, Brookie, why that's such a big deal to your daddy until Vicky and I started traveling quite a bit. And we've been all over the place. And everywhere we go, we get the same thing. And I mean everywhere. We were sitting in the streets of New Orleans, Louisiana, several years ago, and we're sitting there at 2 a.m. on a Sunday morning. And this kid walks up and goes, hey, you're Brooke Bush's dad, and you're Vicky, right? And I tell you, I didn't trust a soul. I was about ready to draw on this little kid because I thought he was going to take my wallet. I did. But the more he talked, the more I realized he was a pretty cool kid. And he just found a way to entertain himself through watching these little videos. And he'd seen enough of yours to know who we were. And that impresses me every time. And we were sitting in Lincoln, Nebraska a couple years ago watching Clayton play football. And we were up in the middle of the stands, nowhere conspicuous like the front row. We were lost up in the crowd. And these 3 little girls come running up to us and go, hey, you're Brooke's dad and you're Vicky. And we're used to it by now, so I kind of strike up a conversation. And I said, so you girls must go to school here? No. So you must live here? You know somebody on the team? No. She said, we live 3 hours away. And I said, 3 hours? What are you doing here? And she said, well, we saw Brooke's vlog that Clayton had a game here today, and we live pretty close, 3 hours. So we thought we'd just come see if Brooke was there. And the whole time they're looking for Brooke, the whole time. And I said, no, sugar, Brooke didn't come with us this time. And I thought they were going to just wilt right there. So I said, hang on a minute, I got an idea. And I FaceTimed her. You probably remember that. I FaceTimed Brooke and I said, hey, these little girls came to see you. Say hi to them. And being the sweet child that Brooke is, she sat there and talked to these little girls for probably 5 minutes. And they just literally lit up. I mean, their whole world just changed right there. And they're laughing and bopping up and down, hitting one another and telling stories. One of them's got tears running down her cheeks. And then after Brooke said bye, they made me a little welcome to Brooke's vlog video, which I sent you, and then they just bebopped off. I don't even think they watched a single play of the game. They couldn't care less. They were happy. That 5-minute conversation with my daughter made that 6-hour round trip worth every second to those little girls. And here's why that's such a big deal to your daddy. It's not because you're popular or famous or because we get attention, none of that. It's because every time one of those beautiful kids comes up to me and says hi and tells me a story and takes a selfie, it reminds me of you and how sweet and beautiful you are. And how positive an influence you are on all these little kids. Not a single one of them is a stalker. None of them are sad, depressed, angry little kids. They're all beautiful, healthy kids that just found a way to entertain themselves through you. And no, I don't always get it, Brookie, but my dad didn't always get me either, darling. But I love what you do, and more importantly, I love who you are. And I've quit worrying about you being successful because I know you've got it, okay? So then the dad's final worry, and y'all bear with me, I'm about done. Dad's final worry becomes, is this little girl going to be happy for the rest of her life? Because that's all a real dad really cares about. It really is. Before I leave this place, I just want to know that my kids are okay. And to that point, Brooke had only brought home a couple little boys from high school that she dated for a while, and you know, that is what it is. Every girl dad knows that's coming. That's just part of life. There's not a dumber species on earth than a teenage boy. That's just a fact. Preach. But right before I freaking buried one behind the barn, she decided that she understood that and they kind of moved on. Well, then a few years ago, she brings home this new kid that, you know, to be honest, pretty average looking kid. This baseball player, you know, whatever. It turns out he's a pretty good boy. It turns out that he grows on me pretty quickly because he's clearly not just buttering dad up to be around his daughter. He's genuinely a good kid, and he's nice to her, and he takes care of her. And I realized pretty soon that he likes my daughter, and I'm pretty sure she likes him almost as much as she likes her daddy, almost. So it didn't surprise me when he called me up and said, hey, I want to come talk to you about Brookie. I knew what that meant. I said, come on. And I know that the days of asking a father for his daughter's hand, that's kind of a thing of the past, so I expected more of an announcement. But that young man walked in my house and shook my hand, and we sat down on the couch and talked for about an hour. And he said, I've thought long and hard about it, I've prayed about it, and I've studied it, and I think our finances and our careers are headed in the right direction. And he said, we even spent a little time apart to see if that's what we really wanted, and it is. And I thought that was very wise and very smart, Greg. And then that young man asked me if he could ask my daughter to marry him. And my answer was, Gray, I can't think of a finer kid to take care of my little girl for the rest of her life. And you absolutely had my blessing. So today, Gray, I turn over to you one of the most beautiful, amazing, incredible parts of my life. And I'm going to quit worrying about her being happy because I know you got it. I love you both. Congratulations.
There's a fog on the pond and a whistling. My grandpa was a fishing man. He got an education, bought a plot of land. With the fog on the pond and a whistle in the wind.
You're still my favorite.
Yeah, get that on repeat.
Don't tell Chloe.
Say that out loud for everyone to hear.
There's a fog on the pond and a whistle in the wind.
I love you too. Had you not texted me about what size is the cake, we were screwed.
No, we don't need a cake though. If there's no cake, it's fine.
I didn't know a thing about the cake. 12:30.
When did you start making it?
This afternoon. Yeah, I walked in and slammed the oven on and started mixing. I was like, let's go.
Have you ever seen that little kid with the mixing show? And he's like, my potatoes!
That's where we start my potatoes.
I officially feel like I'm getting married after that. Yeah. That was weird. I was like, oh, I am getting married. This is my dad. He's saying bye.